I walk through the valley with the shadow of death, and I fear no evil because I'm blind to it all, and my mind, my gun, they comfort me because I know I'll kill my enemies when they come. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell on this earth forevermore. Sit and walk beside the still waters, and they restore my soul, but I can't walk on the path of the right because I'm wrong. Yeah, I can't walk on the path of the right because I'm wrong.
The hell am I doing, man? Am I really gonna rewrite this entire thing? Yeah. I'm gonna rewrite, and I'm gonna explain every last part of this. It's clear over the past couple years that we really like games with story modes.
How can we not? Many of them are intricate, complex stories that weave the gameplay into the story itself, so much so that we know that they couldn't be done in film. But that doesn't stop Hollywood. Video game stories can often be disappointing as well, whether because of the writing itself or the hype and anticipation around it. Some games don't even try a story when they definitely are built for one. Others write for games that definitely don't need a story. Developers like Telltale write their stories as people are reacting to it, which definitely brought them a lot of success. MMOs add new story modes all the time to make things seem fresh and new. And you know how I feel about that.
My god, I can't understand this game.
Some stories are only the motivator to push the player forward, and others are compelling and bring up deep philosophical questions. That category is the one that we're looking at. Some of these stories allow for an insane amount of world building, and others show intriguing and different characters around a plethora of backgrounds. The two developers that are best known for both are Rockstar and Naughty Dog.
But I don't like Rockstar, so let's talk about the developers that made the genre that Bethesda will be using very soon.
I really love Naughty Dog. They're the creators of Crash Bandicoot and Jak and Daxter, Uncharted 1, which is absolutely amazing, 2 is a masterpiece, 3 is okay, and I absolutely love 4. Naughty Dog has shown time and time again that they strive for and hire for the passion of the craft, for better and for worse. As the developers that push the limits of graphical fidelity and narrative storytelling, whether you're an Orange Marsupial or Nathan Fillion. And thus, in 2013, they showed to the masses what they were fully capable of. This is one of the best stories. The pacing is perfect, the chemistry between Ellie and Joel is outstanding, and every character feels perfected, with nothing feeling wasted. Every character showing how sad
dark and demented this world is, while also bringing joy. It was telling how much people loved it, even after being the billionth zombie game. I jumped late on the bandwagon around 2019 when the game became available on PlayStation Plus, and I fell in love with it. The world, the characters, the gameplay, and I'm a fucking pussy. I get scared easily. So the fact I could play this and feel motivated to keep playing it is amazing and is a testament to how good the game is. The writing from Neil here is absolutely outstanding. Every character feels real. Every bit of motivation feels justified. And the interactions between all these characters are absolutely perfect. Even its original cover speaks so much to the game itself. It's so artistic in its own way and tells us a lot about the game. The writing is tight, so perfected to its T, with the most bitter and most sweet ending in a game I've ever seen. This says so much about love, compassion, and how far you can go for the ones you love. And then they said, fuck it, we're gonna do it again. After Uncharted 4's release in 2016, fans were clamoring for a sequel to Last of Us. It's clear why. Uncharted 4 was Naughty Dog at its peak in graphical fidelity, its writing was superb, everything felt perfected at the most part, to a T. So it's no wonder why they were wanting it. But how long will we have to wait? I mean, it took the team about a year after Last of Us 1 to release the Uncharted 4 teaser, and it still had 2 years in development left. So they weren't going to show off their next big project so soon. Oh shit. Announced 7 months after Uncharted 4's release, Lost Legacy was story DLC sold in a separate case. Similar to Lost Light in a way of it being the exact same game but sold separately. Oh boy, I sure do hope that doesn't become a trend. Okay, that was fun. So since Naughty Dog was working on a spin-off, they really had no time to be working on a Last of Us sequel. And if they were, it was probably really early in its development stage. So they definitely wouldn't have anything to show us for quite a while.
I'm gonna find, and I'm gonna kill every last one of them.
Okay, never mind. So yeah, Naughty Dog announced 2 intense AAA games in one press conference. Along with that, we had news for Crash Bandicoot, a remaster of 3 classic Japan studio games, rest in peace, and also additional news for all of the E3 announcements earlier that year. Being a fan of PlayStation at the time was amazing. We had so many things to look forward to, and we had to wait at least 2 years to even experience half of it. Now, in terms of Last of Us 2 info, we sure did get a lot of nothing. The only thing that we could go on is that while the last game was a story about love, this story was of hate. Boy, did that age well. Then around 2017, we got footage, I guess. Looking back at this footage, this really told us nothing. What's the premise? I don't know. What's going on? I don't know.
Who are you people?
I don't know. Even when compared to the actual scene from the game, this isn't really anything. Sure, it's an action-packed scene, but it tells us nothing other than, yeah, we're still making this. We didn't even know who Abby was as a character or why she was a character, so this really was just null and void at the time. In 2018, however, we got a lot more. At the beginning of Sony's E3 press conference, they in their infinite wisdom decided to build a church to show one gameplay, because that's where gamers feel the most comfortable, a church. And they then proceed to show a lesbian kiss, because as we all know, homosexuality is accepted amongst all religions. And before people start calling me homophobic, because that joke was kinda please know I'm a white man with a penis. Very stupid, but I am a firm believer in LGBTQ rights. Y'all are valid, y'all deserve so much more love than you're currently getting, and anyone who thinks you're a choice deserves one of these. The story that we were presented in the demo was very vague, to say the least. Sure, we got the sense of the anger and the hate that we were talking about, but this didn't really show us the cause of all this. Some speculated Dina dying, or something along those lines to push Ellie to go down this path. If only they knew. However, in 2019, we got nothing. mainly due to there being no Sony info at all that year, because they said,
You know Nintendo Directs? Let's do those but shittier.
okay, fine, we did have trailers here or there, and hey, we finally got a release date. That was then changed within a week. Wow. This then leads us to 2020, which, yeah, this will be in its own part. "2020 was a year, to say the least. Whether it was the pandemic, the election, or just the entirety of the Black Lives Matter movement, this year was just bound to be in the history books for one of those reasons. By the way, Black Lives Matter, and fuck you cops for taking the Punisher symbol. This symbol is against everything that you are, and you should be ashamed of yourselves." Back to business. One of the most controversial things to happen in gaming culture was Last of Us 2. Not only did this have yet another delay, but they also had something else, something that kind of destroyed hype for a lot of people and birthed another negative type of hype. The game's story was leaked. This did a lot in terms of the controversy, not only because the leak itself setting off the internet, but because of what Sony was doing about the leaks. Because it was all over the internet, Sony was having to be thorough to keep the leaks off the internet. And thus, false strikes were bound to happen, which definitely gave more attention to the already controversial problem. Spoilers if you didn't already know, which would be weird, because why the hell would you click on this video if you didn't know already? How the hell do you explain this? Alright, there's no sugarcoating it. Joe fucking dies. This, for a lot of people, felt like an insult. It wasn't for me, but it's easy to understand why. It's like finding out your relative has cancer or had died in a crash. You become angry, confused. You wonder, why them? Why did this happen? How did this happen? I didn't even get to say goodbye. Little did we know, the story would portray Ellie in the exact same way. I will talk more about the death and the complex themes it brings, but I think it was important to sympathize with the people who felt the way they felt. Your feelings are valid. Don't let anyone tell you differently. It's what makes art a subjective medium in the first place. But I will not defend or validate those who are hateful and harass Neil or any of the developers who worked on this game. I will not support people who got so offended by things they didn't like or want, and use that under the guise of criticism to hate and harass and treat developers with no respect. I'm not going to listen to people who are constantly yelling about how SJWs are destroying the world and how Neil Druckmann is part of a secret cabal to make Brie Larson this most powerful Jedi in the world, more powerful than Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker, and how Kathleen Kennedy is actually a really big Nazi who only wants to get rid of straight line men and penises, and how Brie Larson is the commander of this all, charging the fort against every single white man with a penis.
Yes, Mr. Sherman, everything is Brie Larson's fault.
It's become so repetitive and bland, it dilutes actual criticism. If you actually tweet things like this, you're honestly a petty bitch. It's a stupid mentality to have. Yeah, I'm gonna sell my PS4 after 7 years of top-notch games just because I didn't like one fucking game. Like, do you hear yourself? It's like canceling your Disney Plus subscription and vowing to never touch it again because one scene in a superhero show didn't obey the laws of physics. Or you're maybe even a worse person, and it's because Disney fired a transphobic actress who said her opinions were being treated like Holocaust victims. This is the same person as the last week, by the way. I thought I'd just point out the pattern. To put it bluntly, this video is not for those who hate a game for simply doing something they didn't like, and using that hatred to harm others. Before we get into the whole meat and potatoes of the video, it's important for me to talk about what this video is and what it isn't. This isn't a hate piece. As I've said, this isn't going to be a, this sucks, this is how I'm going to make it better. I say this because I know there are videos with this mindset, specifically from the people that this isn't for, as they always seem to forget the difference between doing things out of love and doing things out of hate. This isn't here to add to the already raging fire. This is just me. These are my thoughts on what I would have done. Not what I would have done to make it better, because what we got is probably the best we could get with Neil's vision. My views of artistic integrity have become very important to me over the past couple years, especially with the release of the Snyder Cut. #restore the Snyderverse. The artist's vision, even when it's in its purest form, with no compromise, must be respected, even though you don't like it. So in order to understand my vision, we must respect and understand Neil's. To understand Neil's vision, we need to understand his most controversial contribution to that vision.
Abby.
No!
Abby, don't look.
Dad! Dad! No! No!
Abby. To understand Abby, we need to look at her introduction. A nightmare. Not only to show how she's haunted by the death of her father, but to also give us an understanding what her actions really are. Revenge. I know that sounds obvious. It's important to understand because some of Abby's allies are there for something completely different. Vengeance. Now, I know they sound similar, and many pieces of fiction do confuse the two, but in reality, they are two completely different sides of the same coin. Revenge is often spiteful, out of anger and hatred of the accused. It's more personal. For example, characters like John Wick, or any confrontation with Rick Sanchez. Vengeance is more towards the line of justice, so characters like Batman or Ghost Rider. While revenge can have vengeance involved, revenge cannot be involved in vengeance. John Wick not only started killing again because they killed his dog, but also because they were just horrible people. Revenge is front and center, vengeance sitting right behind it. This can't work the other way around. If Ghost Rider was the spirit of revenge, then he could only fight those who wronged him. There's a reason Batman's famous line isn't
I am revenge. I am the Knight. I am Batman.
It just doesn't sound right coming out of Batman's mouth, does it?
Thank you, Kevin. However, there are characters that give out vengeance under the guise of revenge. Characters like Punisher are a perfect example. Although they are very rare occasions and don't have anything to do with Abby's situation, I just thought I'd lay down the groundwork. While Abby is fueled by revenge, her allies are only there for vengeance. You can see that in their reactions, both when they're told to torture him, and once someone comes in, they ask to get it over with. Even in the beginning, Owen tries to reason with Abby, tell her they should just end it here because of what they'd have to do. The allies aren't fueled by any personal connection, by anger, by trauma. All they know is that Joel fucked their shit and doomed humanity. But it's not to a point their connection hinders their morals. This is a story thread often used when talking about revenge and vengeance. People who are fueled by revenge will stop at nothing to meet their goals without any thought on who it affects, even when it affects themselves. While those fueled by vengeance are more level-headed, and sometimes able to stop their crusade. Not because they want to, but because they know they need to. In the game, they are willing to do dark things for the common goal, but only when they feel it's necessary. But when it's not, they don't want to be monsters. This leads to the group slowly breaking apart over the course of the story, as Abby's anger, depression, and nightmares don't leave her. Sure, they aren't the same as before, but they're just as potent. The guilt, the resentment, It's all there. Even after she convinces herself she did good by sparing the ones that were left. Abby is an interesting character, one fueled by rage and revenge, and one who wishes for redemption. The only reason most of us were so turned off by her was how she was introduced, and of course, the person she affected.
Joel, get up. Joel, fucking get up. Please stop. Please don't do this. Joel, please get up.
Ellie. To understand Ellie, we need to see how she became a character we don't recognize. For me, I believe this transformation started right around... No, not here. Not here either. Stop. Here. The car. When Joel told Ellie that she wasn't special. Inadvertently saying that everything they went through was for nothing. Tess being bitten and sacrificing herself. Sam being bitten. Henry killing himself. Everything with David. All of it. For nothing. In the first flashback, it's clear to see that while the car scene was the cause of Ellie's depression, this scene was the straw that broke Ellie. By the second flashback, she becomes more serious, more melancholy, and more obsessed with the idea that she was not special. And the third, well, that obsession took its toll. It changed her relationship forever. By the fourth, she's become the person we know her as, depressed. Ellie is a completely different character than when we saw her last, and I think it's mostly handled well. And this especially comes to fruition with...
Y'all act like you heard of us or something.
Because they have.
Laura, all clear?
He's out. Put him against the wall.
Tommy! Get off me! Get off me!
Joel's death. Before I start, this isn't coming from a fanboy. Okay, I know this looks bad. I actually have these type of outfits for every occasion. Rick and Morty, Muppets, oh god, I have to burn that one. Joel's death was not for shock value. I've heard that thrown around every once in a while, and yeah, no. That is not a shock value death. Not by a long shot. Shock value deaths are deaths that make you gasp, and that's it. No emotional weight, no relevancy to the plot, it's just a death. Nothing more. Joel's death just isn't that. It's a catalyst for the entire theme of revenge is a cycle. A wise Batman once said, I didn't get Kevin to do this one? Okay. Just show the Revenge of the Hood clip, I guess.
Then it will happen this way. You make the kill. But your pain doesn't die with Harvey, it grows. So you run out into the night to find another face. And another. And another. Until one terrible morning you wake up and realize that revenge has become your whole life. And you won't know why.
Revenge isn't this magical thing that forever fixes all your problems. It isn't fulfilling. You feel nothing but emptiness. It doesn't take away the nightmares, it just changes them. Not only that, the cycle of revenge follows through with the revenge of the previous revenge. This whole concept of, I'm getting revenge on your friend for getting revenge on my friend for getting revenge on you for getting revenge on me is very common. And it's been parodied a lot. So this game had to do a lot to give me a refreshed experience. And for me, it just doesn't do that. Sure, it's emotionally thematic, but I don't think it says anything interesting about it. Just that it's a cycle.
Ooh, scary.
It comes to a point where I'm more like, yeah, no shit. And look, I get it. Film and media love hitting a very prominent message in the head a lot. But I didn't watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier because it said racism bad. I watched it because it took a deep dive into racism bad by going into institutional racism in the very idea of Captain America. And I fucking love that shit. Dude, same speech in the end. I will fuck with that shit any day of the week. But Last of Us 2, in my opinion, doesn't do that. Sure, it has emotional weight to the message, but it isn't saying anything profound or interesting that hasn't already been done in a lot better ways. Again, this is my opinion. You are allowed to disagree. Whether we're talking about Ellie's story or Abby's story, both having nothing really to do with each other, have nothing to say or bring to the table outside of violence is bad after you proceeded to kill 20 other guys in a very brutal fashion. And with a Last of Us 3 script already apparently finished, then what was the point of this lesson? We're just gonna go back to this extremely violent world and gameplay. So now, after saying all of this, and not hearing me criticize it that much outside of that last bit, what would I change? What would I talk about? What themes would I keep? What characters would I have? Well, alright. Here we go. Last of Us 2, in my honest opinion, doesn't show consequence correctly. Whoa. Hear me out, guys. While the game definitely does have consequence, it doesn't really present it or even talk about it. Sure, we can say it talks about Ellie's revenge a lot. It's not being presented as consequence for Abby's actions. It's being presented solely as revenge for Abby's actions. We don't get to see her contemplate over the fact that if she hadn't gone and killed Joel, her friends would probably still be alive. There is no real moment to have her think about those she lost. At no point does consequence really sit with the protagonist. Instead, it goes to another story beat before it goes towards any form of contemplation. So the first thing I want to focus on in this rework is showing how revenge has consequence, no matter how fulfilling we think it'll be, and let their actions really sit with the characters. So I think the best moment to start my vision off with is actually the original opening. This opening is actually perfect for the story I'm wanting to tell. This scene shows the feeling of both Tommy and Joel, with Joel being so sure that he did the right thing and Tommy questioning his brother's actions. However, we won't have any write-offs into the sunset. Not yet anyway. Instead, we'll end it here. After all that, we start the actual story with Abby, as we see how we go from here to here. I'm probably going to keep the flashbacks, but this time in order, as to show the relationship between Abby and Owen. However, places in between would be gameplay moments of Abby trying to find a lead. These will be short as to not feel like a Last of Us recap. Year 1, Spring. We see Abby and Owen ride into Boston to see those who knew Joel. Many of them are the one-note people from the start of Last of Us 1. We'll move the Abby-Owen aquarium scene later to build the relationship further. Year 1, Summer. By then, Abby and Owen are a couple and make it to Lincoln to find Bill and interrogate him. This is where we can show the divide between the two, as Abby is so consumed by revenge that she begins to torture Bill to get something. Anything. But Owen tries his best to snap her out of it, and luckily succeeds. Because, well, he's not here for that. After a long talk, Owen convinces Abby to go back home. Year 2, Spring. The aquarium events take place, furthering the two apart as Owen realizes how revenge has consumed Abby. Year 2, Summer. Around this time, they were able to find a lead which brings them to Pittsburgh, finding a journal from either Sam or Henry saying how they were trying to find the Fireflies. Using deductive reasoning, it leads them to the original base at the University of Colorado. By then, it's Year 2, Winter. Unable to find the lead, Abby just becomes enraged, thinking there has to be something. Owen tries to convince her again to head back home, but Abby, having revenge consume her, says they're through, splitting up and beginning to travel towards Salt Lake City to see what she can find. Year 3, spring. Running into the remains of David's group, of course with David dead, because David's group is a bit crazy, Abby has to fight them. However, she does find a prisoner during her scuffle, very similar to how Ellie was a prisoner, and that's Lev. In this version, Lev will be the emotional catalyst for Abby, and very much the anti-revenge. As when Abby begins to torture the remains of the group for their crimes, Lev tells her to stop, giving an emotional core to the dynamic, making Lev the character that can reach Abby out of her revenge frenzy, similar to other scenes within the game. After much turmoil, they then head back home. Year 3, winter. Upon returning, we see Owen and Mel are in a relationship, and Abby, of course, is unfazed, as depression really seems to have consumed her. We then go on to year 4. Around that time, the final flashback occurs. I know the opening sounds like a lot of, hey, remember this? But in my opinion, it's a much more interesting way to show how revenge can consume you, and push you away from those you care about. And those who care about you will try to do anything to help you get out of this dark place. Thus, we begin the journey to kill Joel. For this, I won't describe it in depth. This video is already as long as it is. But as an overview, I would want this section to perpetuate the themes built by the opening, while also showing how revenge is sometimes haunting, making you do things that you wouldn't normally do. And I would show this by Abby and the group running into scars, or maybe the other group. I don't remember any of the fucking groups in that game. And even after they take them all out, Abby continually beats them, just not stopping. Similar to the scene in God of War with Atreus and the giant, but instead of contextualizing it as anger getting the better of him, this is anger taking control in a much more haunting way. It's through these scenarios that we see Lev's relationship with Abby break over time, ultimately leading to Lev pleading with Abby not to get revenge, to end it here. It's going to end with more deaths and losses. Can't she see that? After all they've been through, she listened to him before, she'll listen to him again. She can see that Ellie sees Joel like a father. Is she really willing to do what Joel did to her? He brings up all these points to stop her, and it doesn't work. The anger, the rage, it turns good men and women cruel. And for Abby, it did more than that. She became the very thing she sought revenge on. And Lev isn't going to forget that. Not only did a daughter lose her father that day, but a son lost what he thought was his mother. Cut to a couple weeks later, and we do the original story for Abby. This time, way more condensed. And instead of sending a literal pregnant woman out on the field, we'll replace her with Lev, since we already introduced him. We'll change his plot to be about Abby attempting to be forgiven by Lev, but ultimately failing, and Abby trying to forgive herself. However, there won't be an Owen sex scene. I don't know, it just felt too forced to me. I'm all for video game characters doing it, but not when it's a sex scene to do a sex scene. Eventually, the main story leads us to see that all of her friends are dead. Yay. Now we get to
Travel back in time.
For Ellie's section, I would mostly make it unchanged. Only I just add Jesse into the mix, because he literally had nothing to do and then just dies. The rest of the story is pretty much the same. The third act is tightened up a bit, and I would leave the ending as it was, ambiguous and open-ended, and without a sequel, because making a third game makes no sense given this lesson. And that's it. I don't know if this was better or worse. I'm not a writer by any means. I'm just a nerd who was ultimately disappointed, but accepted the game we got. And hey, if we are going to have a third game, maybe that should be the theme of Last of Us 3. Acceptance. Forgiving is hard, but acceptance is sometimes even harder. While forgiving someone says you have stopped your anger and resentment towards another's actions, acceptance is saying those actions were theirs, saying that it happened and that there's nothing we can do to change it. Abby did kill Joel. Ellie did abandon Dina. Lev, in my story at least, is still on the fence about Abby. And while Ellie did forgive Abby for her actions, did Ellie even accept her own actions? I'm giving you a free idea, Neil, so please don't fuck this up by retreating to the old ways. I'm Iron Ninja, thank you for watching. Fuck my life.
If I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself. Everything I have found here, I'm not found by myself. Try and sometimes you'll succeed to make this man of me. All my stolen missing parts I've no need for any more, 'cause I believe, and I believe 'cause I can see our future days, days of you